Merkel Media.
This was all circulating around the base that a giant had been killed, but no one was supposed to talk about it.
I saw 3 long, bony fingers reach up underneath the door, curl up to grab it, and then disappear.
When he came over to me, dude, he slithered over to me.
And this giant comes out of the cave, and they're all frozen. And he starts running and firing at this giant. Well, the giant moves. He's got a spear in one hand, and he's running really fast and spears Dan and holds him up like this. Somebody yells, shoot him in the face, shoot him in the face. They basically decapitate him.
Got closer. When he got about 15 yards away from me, I raised that 12 gauge and I blowed his head off.
I feel something pulling at my leg, and I look over and there are 2 small gray entities pulling at me. And they're literally, I'm getting pulled off the bed.
I reached my hand into this bush and I touched air. Couldn't breathe and I couldn't move because I know I'm seeing a monster.
Listening to the Confessionals, I am your host, Tony Merkel. Thank you for being here. If you've had an encounter or a story you'd like to share with me on the show, go ahead and shoot me that email. My email address is theconfessionalspodcast@gmail.com. That's theconfessionalspodcast@gmail.com. Or go to the website, theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the connection section, and you can reach me that way as well. Either way works for me. Just get a hold of me. Now, this week we have the Art Bell iTunes 5-star rating and reviews. Anybody who goes to iTunes and leaves a 5-star rating and review gets a shout out on the following week's show. And this week we have Shine Down Asking For It, KDO9, Lactio 0, Flippers 6767, Trippy Hippie Guy, General J, Joseph E, Midget Fits and Glitter Tricks, and Murray E. Thank you very much for going to iTunes and leaving that 5-star rating and review. It helps the show out a lot, and I do appreciate it. Moving on to Patreon, we give the shout-outs for anybody who becomes a patron. And this week we have E. Stephen P., Chad B., Heather C., Andy M., Robert M., Brian D., and Ignacio S. Thank you very much for becoming patrons and helping to support the show on a monthly basis. That does mean a lot to me, and I truly do appreciate it. Now, this week we have Rob coming on the show, and Rob's going to be sharing anything from UFOs to mermaids to everything in between. So let's get to Rob right now. Okay, tonight I have a great guest coming on. Rob is a military veteran. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you, Tony?
I'm doing good. So I got this email from you just a couple of weeks ago, and because you're in the military and you're active, you don't know when you're going to be around. So I wanted to get this interview done when you're available. You have some really interesting experiences on here, going from anywhere from zero gravity aircraft carrier to mermaids to ghosts, and the picture that you sent me with the face behind you. We'll get into all of that, but why don't you just start us off with the zero gravity aircraft carrier? I'm very fascinated by this. So what's that all about?
Okay, so I'd say back in 2009, right? Back when I was in high school, me and my buddy were driving on this toll road back in SoCal where I'm from, and all of a sudden this, it's a pretty much what looks like to be a carrier in the sky. Have you seen like District 9 or Independence Day? I'm sure you've seen that movie,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Like District 9, so it looked like a carrier because, I've seen carriers and surface warfare ships, and it was like 10 times that size, like not wide, but going like shooting down a highway almost. And so it was pretty intense, but I could start from the beginning if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. All right. So back in I'd say about 2009, me and my buddy, we went to the movies, right? Probably like 4:35, went and saw a movie, and around, I'd say about 8:00, we dropped off our friend at his house. And then I took, cause we have a lot of toll roads in California. I took this toll road, like a fast track way to drop my buddy off on the other side of town. And so as we were going, right, I remember this like distinctly from like, you know, from that very day. So I have like a 4Runner, right? Like a 2000 4Runner. As soon as I took off on the toll road, the song Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, the song, what's it called? I think it's called, I'll remember his song, but it came on, right? Like it's Space Down, the song. It came on and my radio antenna shut off. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. And then it turned back on. And then I was like, that's never happened before, you know? And then, as I was driving down the toll road, this red Saturn was in front of me and like a coupe, and, started slowing down, and it was really weird because I was like, it must be like a car accident in front of us. And, as we turned the corner, this gigantic silhouette in the sky, like above, because the toll road reached to a point where it was very steep, and it kind of goes downhill. It goes underneath a bridge, and you can see the mountains in the back. And there's like sort of a town center, and this gigantic aircraft was just in the sky floating, and it was like silhouetted. Because I've seen out at sea, you know, ships when you go dark at night because you don't have any lights on, it's like a black shadow almost, but you can still figure out what it was from close up. And so what I saw when I was going down the road was this gigantic aircraft just floating, and you could kind of hear it. It was kind of making like a humming. You could hear like whatever type of engineering system it had on there, that was floating above us. And so it was just really crazy. And that was like, I don't know, it was something almost imaginary. Like,
yeah,
you thought it was like World War III going on. It was that nuts at that level. But, you know, as I was driving, I was just like, I rolled down my window and I was like, dude, just like screaming at him. And my buddy, he was just like, I don't know. I don't think his brain can function, or he couldn't process it at the time. So he was like, oh, like he got sick, and he was like, I want my mom.
Wow.
And I was just like, dude, like it was something like we're not supposed to see, you know, like our brains, or we've never seen anything like that. And so like, that's all I remember. It was probably like a good 15-20 seconds. I wasn't even paying attention to the road. We were just staring at it. That's how crazy it was. And it was so like on like a, you know, out at sea, if you ever see any type of warships, or you see any type of like merchant vessels, they're very distinct at night with their navigational lights. You could be able to tell what they are. Well, this thing, it was rectangular, right? So, and it was hovering down the highway, and on each corner of it, on each corner of it, it had a navigational light, like a white dim light. And so, but it went down for miles. It was incredible. Like, I don't know what happened, if it maybe its cloaking device like shut off or what it was, but it was pretty intense. And then after that happened, my buddy he was on the verge of crying. He's like, oh, like he's making all sorts of weird sounds, and he was whining. He's like, where's my mom? And then as soon as that ended, it was like 15 or 20 seconds, and I don't even know what happened to the Saturn in front of us. I don't remember anything about it, where it was. I don't know if we turned on an exit, and at that time we had flip phones. And I pulled out, I was like, pull out your phone, dude. And we pulled out our phone, and it was gone within seconds. It was like, I don't know if its cloaking turned on or if it took off, but it was gone by then. And then we were both shaking. Like I'm shaking just talking about it right now.
So how long ago was this again?
This was in 2009 or 2010, one of those years, because it was the year I was graduating. So I graduated in 2010.
And so, like, all right, so the size of this thing, I mean, are we talking about like a football field or more than a football field size?
it was okay. So wide, it reached probably across the highway, like a toll road highway. So I'd say it must have been at least 100 yards wide, but it went down for at least, I'd say it was almost imaginary. Like it was crazy. Like it reached almost like 2 miles going down. Like from as far as my eye could see, it was just a black silhouette, but you could see its shape. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like you can only see like the silhouette of it. You know what I mean? So like, and the only thing you get distinct, the only way you can make of it was because of each corner of it. It had some type of navigational line. And so whenever we got off the toll road and we just pulled over because it hovered over like a Home Depot, like a Target area, and nothing happened in the news or no one was talking about it. Me and my buddy just got out of the car and we were just like all full of like, joy because we just saw something badass. It was like, whoa, that was amazing, man. And we're shaking. And we tried to tell people. I tried telling my girlfriend, my ex-girlfriend at the time, she thought we were crazy. But he was there. We were not on any drugs. We were like athletes in school. So, I was like 17. I really didn't drink that much. I didn't drink at all pretty much at that age. But like, it was incredible. But that was kind of like just a little bit of things I've happened. It just seems like my life, I always run into weird, abnormal things or paranormal things,
Yeah. And so, I mean, you see that, and I'm assuming that's probably one of the biggest things you've ever seen in your life up to that point. And you're now in the military. Do you think that what you saw was military? Do you think that was something that we operate with?
It could be. You know what? Like, I think it could have been, because as soon as we pulled off the toll road, right, we went to like this area where my girlfriend's job was at this restaurant, and there's like a Home Depot. It was like, I remember to this day, it was like 8:05, 8:06 at night, and then we pulled over like 8:15, 8:20, and like we're calling our family, let them know, like, and at that time we were hearing helicopters flying by, like a bunch of them, like not a normal, you couldn't see them either, but you could hear helicopters. So like you could kind of make out by their light, like helicopter light at night. But there's probably like, I say 5 or 6 of them in that area. So you never know, and, like Camp Pendleton's not that far from there. So.
All right. Well, I mean, I just find it interesting because, I mean, when you see something that big, we have a lot of technology, and when something like that big's going through the sky, you would think that somebody somewhere would detect it. You know what I mean? And then at that point, it's like, is it being detected or is it not being detected? And if it is being detected, are they being quiet about it, or is it because they knew about it the whole time because it's them? You know what I mean? Them as in like military aircraft or something like that.
I totally understand. Like, that's why, like, because I've been seeing in the news, like on social media, people joking around about the Space Force, how Donald Trump's bringing the Space Force as sort of like a Starship Troopers type of department, and like it's bringing like a lot of inspiration to people. But I feel like he's almost doing something like maybe unclassifying something,
like he knows something.
Yeah, because like, I'm not trying to get into politics, but he almost seems like a Kennedy character in a way, sort of, like speaking to Russians, kind of like what he did before he was, assassinated, unfortunately. And like, it seems like it's something he's just trying to do, try to maybe mention it, maybe like, bring it up, something like that, like trying to, even though it's probably there, it's probably been there for years, but from my understanding, it probably was, but it was just something, and I mean, I'm active duty in the military, but I work nothing in any of that type of, nothing secret scroll type of top secret stuff.
Well, you got to work your way up to that, man. It's got to be a mission of yours. I feel like sometimes, at least the way Trump is portrayed in the media. Now, I'm not a big fan of media, so everybody knows that.
Yeah.
But, I think that you ever see that cartoon? I think it's called Dexter's Lab when I was a kid.
Yeah.
He had an older sister, and the phrase that she always said was, "What does this button do?" And it's just sometimes I'm like, I wonder if the Trump's just walking around like, I wonder what this button does. Oh, that. So it's funny though, man. I try to keep a lighthearted attitude about it all, and
you definitely have to be,
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, there's no need to get it so uptight about everything, but it's very interesting, the whole idea of the Space Force thing, and clearly there's a certain amount of technology there that is not available to the public for them to even think about doing Space Force. I mean, you're talking about a giant operation to militarize space. There is technology and equipment there that you need to be able to build off of in order to do something like that right now seems science fiction. And I don't think right now, I don't think a government should pursue something that they have to build a foundation with that is science fiction. So that what I'm trying to say is, I think there's technology available right now that they need in order to do this that is not available to the public. And that's fine. I mean, I don't think we should have all the technology, and we shouldn't know about everything, because if we know about it, our enemy knows about it. So I think some secrets are a good thing,
I agree. Yeah. Like, it was something definitely that, like my buddy who was there, he obviously cannot handle it. Like, I guess it was like almost like a proving thing to me. Like, I was just fascinated by it, but his brain almost shut off. Like, he's just like kind of sort of like, because I haven't been in combat before, but like, we've been trained, like, a lot of people that when they go into combat, they kind of hit like a fetal position, because that's like when you're born, that's the most comfortable position. And that's what happens to people when they experience, crazy stuff like that. And he almost did just like that. It was nuts. And that was my only time I've ever seen anyone do that. And we're both heavyweight wrestlers in high school. Like, we're pretty good. Like, we're pretty stocky men. And he was at that, for such a young age, 17, 18, and he just almost couldn't even handle it from what he saw. That's how intense it was.
Yeah.
So, but I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. What can I say? But so now you're in the military, and I think you mentioned you're in the Navy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm assuming you're out deployed and you see something that I guess really isn't supposed to exist. In the email you said mermaids. Did you see more than one?
Okay, so I didn't see any. Oh, it's kind of hard to explain. So when I was doing like this kind of like a twilight tour for a frigate, and these frigates, they're from like the 80s, from the Cold War. And so around that time when I first joined, they're like, the Navy wanted them to do one last deployment in South America. So we went to South America, right? And so maybe a month into it, because we're hitting a lot of ports and stuff. I think we're outside of Montevideo, Uruguay. And at the time, I was a seaman. I was, brand new. Because they had you stand like on an aft lookout type of watch, and to make sure no one, jumps overboard out or at night. And I was just, I think it was like midnight, and I was on there, and, at the time, from what I remember, it was like a full moon, and that was the only illumination that we had. And you really couldn't make of anything out on water, but you could see things in the water. But that night, when I was out there, about 5 or 10 minutes into my watch, this head appeared out of the water, and it was really weird, because I was like, I thought it was a dolphin or maybe a sea lion, probably sea lion, and it was just staring at me. And it was almost like a sixth sense feeling, like an intuition, and it's staring at me like, you had some person staring at you from, like 20 feet away, and you're just like, I don't know, like looking at you curiously. And I was just out there with my coffee, and it was because I have to be out there for like about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and the thing was just staring at me for like probably like a good 45 minutes. And every time, because we were going very slow, probably like 3 or 4 knots through the water. No, probably not that slow, like 5 or 6 knots going through the water. And it was, as soon as it got like kind of far away, it would go under and come back up again. But what I've kind of noticed, because it was just staring at me, it was a really weird thing. It had these like shoulder blades on it. That's from what I could remember. And it was just really strange. And I never really thought of anything about it. But it had shoulder blades, not like a sea lion does, you know? So I thought that was really weird. And then, we ended up hitting, Punta Arenas, Chile, which is the southernmost city in Chile. And you're so close down there. You're so far down there. You're near the Arctic Circle. I don't know how many miles exactly it is, but wow. It's snowing down there in South America, you know? And so I remember we had to get underway because our ships were colliding into each other. That's how hard the seas were. And we got underway. And I was just a brand new seaman at the time, and we were going through the Straits of Magellan, and it's a pretty crazy type of straits transit. So it's historically a lot of ships have sank there, crashed there, and as you're going through it, there's this wind that's like no other, that's blowing you, trying to blow you out of it, not let you go through it. And as soon as you enter into the straits, it's crazy, almost like you're in Alaska. That's how beautiful the scenery is. And the strait is very small, almost like a river, almost like a Mississippi River, but it's a strait. And this also is just a way I think mariners would take instead of going around the Cape, South America. So it was like Straits of Magellan, famous explorer back in the day. But as we're going through it, you get to see like ships kind of like half cocked out. That's how dangerous it is to go through it. And at the time I didn't know it was Patagonia. That's that part of Chile. It was all green. It looks like Alaska, and it was snowing. That's how cold it was. I think it was about 10 degrees outside. And so it's so cold, you have to wear like what we call a pumpkin suit at the time, where it's like an Arctic type of cold weather gear. And and I think it was because it's about 15, 17 hour transit going through it, where everyone's manned up, because that's how dangerous it is. It's so, wow. The waters are so shallow there, and there's so many sunken ships there. You have to be careful. But I was just pretty much a lookout and drove the ship at the time, helmsman. And like at that time, I think it was the second day. It was still the first day in, but I woke up one morning on the second day, I think as we're about to finish through, and everyone was just talking about, what some of the guys saw. They're like, yeah, Diego by mermaid. And I was like, whoa, I was like, no way. He's like, yeah, go talk to him. And I go talk to him. I'm like, hey man, I heard you saw a mermaid. He's like, no man, I heard it. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I was on half lookout last night, and I kept on hearing these women laughing in the water. And I was like, shut up, And he's like, no, I'm being serious. Wow. And they're laughing, splashing around in the water. And at that time, frigates, people in the Navy that have been on those ships, they don't have any enlisted women on those ships. And it maybe tops, they have 5 female officers. But on my ship, we only had 2. And there's no way they're going to be anywhere near that part of the ship or even outside,
Yeah.
in that type of weather, and like he seemed like he was telling truth. And I was like, wow, that's crazy, because it reminded me of what I saw, in the water, because those type of waters, not too many people explore, it's not kind of like an ancient area, and like, and then he's like, yeah, I should say this. He's like, another buddy of mine saw it, and he's from Zimbabwe. and he's a very nice man. He's kind of older, guy that worked with us, he's a little bit more experienced than us, in life. And, he's like, the guy I'm talking about, he's like, he heard it too. I was like, oh wow. So I go talk to him, and I go find him. I think he was in our berthing, and I was like, hey man, like, I heard you saw something last night. He's like, no, I heard it. And I was like, wow. Like, he's like, in my country, they call her the White Witch, and they take kids by the river, and they bring them back years later, and they're all messed up in the head. And I was like, I couldn't believe what he was talking about. Like, two people saw it. And it reminded me of what I saw back, and like, yeah, I was like, what? And it kind of like, so ever since then, like, I keep my eyes out, whenever I'm out at sea doing anything, whenever I'm doing any type of, any, like, in general, hiking or anything, I'll always keep my eyes out, because there's always something, but like, yeah, it reminded me, of what I saw back in outside of Uruguay as, a little young deck seaman. And, after deployment, right, I try to, as soon as we got, I think it was about 3 months later, we got back in the home port, and I started scouring the internet about, information. And I found out, Patagonia or the Straits of Magellan have been known for years, for hundreds of years, of seeing, like, sea monsters, even Bigfoot, and like, and mermaids, and UFOs, and all sorts of crazy stuff.
Really?
Because
even Bigfoot?
Yeah, because from what I've done a lot of research, and I think Patagonia means in Spanish, land of the people with big feet.
Wow.
So that means foot. Yeah, and Gonia, land. So, but if you could check that up for me, I'm going to look that up again too. But I'm pretty confident I've seen that around. But like, that's how crazy the area is. It looks just like Alaska. If you were to look at pictures, like, I have a picture of me and my buddies. We all took a picture together, and it was snowing in the background, and not too many people would think, South America, it'd be, snowing out there,
So when you saw this head pop out of the water, and you saw the shoulders, the head, what kind of time distance are we talking about here between when you saw that and when the other guys heard the women in the water laughing?
It was crazy. It probably was within, I'll give you a ballpark, probably within 2 weeks at least.
Wow. And are we talking about the same geographical area mostly?
So anywhere, if you were to look at a map at Uruguay, like Montevideo, and you're probably heading south to, southern Chile, anywhere between that and the Straits of Magellan, yeah. And if you look up any history of it, there's a lot of mermaid sightings there. Wow. All sorts of crazy stuff, because it's such a it's an isolated place. No one goes through there. No one really talks about it.
Right.
It's kind of a dangerous area to navigate.
Oh, I'm sure. I just looked up the meaning of Patagonia and the origin. It says, denoting a member of a native people alleged by travelers of the 17th and 18th centuries to be the tallest known. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, right?
Right.
Like, it's nuts, but, and on a following deployment, I kind of go off topic, but on a following deployment, I also, if you don't mind me going off topic
go for it, man.
A second, on a following deployment, I saw, because I was a lookout too, and I had one of my supervisors with me, and we were, I don't know, I think it was around sunset, right? And this light in front of us, it was nothing like the first aircraft I saw, but it was just a light, and it was green out in front of us in the air above our ship, right? And it was flashing different lights. And we had some people on a ship that's called a forecastle, and they were doing some type of Bible study out there. And in the evening, and me and my supervisor just happened to be staring at this thing when it happened, when we were on watch. And it was flashing different colors, and then all of a sudden, poof, disappeared. And like, we were like, he's like, did you just see that? And I was like, yeah. And then we looked down at everyone, and they're like, did you guys see that? You're like, that was a shooting star. And we're like, no, it wasn't. You guys not see that? It was just crazy. Anyway, it has to happen to most people in the military, or in the Navy at least, when they go out to sea like that, And so I don't know. It's just crazy. But going back, just how much stuff you see out there. But like going back to the Patagonia, whenever I returned back to home port, I started scouring the internet, for information. I found out about Patagonia and the mermaids, sea monsters, and I looked on YouTube, and it happened to have that Discovery Channel documentary come out. You know the one I'm talking about with the mermaids.
Yeah. I think it was like I think they called it a mockumentary, wasn't it? That's supposed to be like a fictional thing, or am I thinking of something different?
Yeah. So it was fictional, but I think it was kind of based off of like maybe something like they made it fictional, like all the characters were actors, but it was sort of had some truth behind it.
Gotcha.
And it just reminded me of what I saw. And I was like, no way, like how crazy these things are, how similar they are. And so, just all sorts of crazy stuff,
Yeah. I'll tell you what, my uncle spent, I think he spent 23 years in the military in the Navy. And so he spent a lot of time out in sea. And I would say probably 2, 3, 4 months ago, I shot him a message on Facebook and I said, have you ever seen anything weird out in the sea? He would spend months out at the sea. And, would you see UFOs or anything like that? And in 23 years, he said he never saw anything like that. And so I guess some people really go through their whole careers not seeing anything. Now, you're fortunate that you're young. I mean, you just graduated in 2010 from high school and you've seen this stuff already.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, if I was in your shoes and I've seen all this stuff, I would never, ever get out of the military. I'd be at sea every chance I get.
I know, like, it's just all my life I've just happened to be, I don't know, like, I'm like that guy who plays a poker game I've never played in my life, and I end up winning the first, like, but I'm not, like, I have this luck, or sometimes, like, something will crash, because I've worked in engineering, something, whenever I'm on watch, something usually breaks, or, I'm like, not usually, but it happens to be whenever I'm on watch, like, great, but like, just all my life, it's just like, I don't know, I just happen, maybe it's my optimistic standpoint, or me having an open-minded, type of personality. I just happen to have these things happen. And, like when I was younger, just around high school, and going to, if you like me to go into the ghosts and stuff, I've sort of, not so much ghosts, but like the spirits I've seen, because back in high school, right, I messed up and used the Ouija board in my house. And so it was, I think it was like my junior year or summer or something, but I was I was bored one summer, and I went to the mall, and I happened to go by some board game store, and I happened to see like, these Ouija boards that they're selling, and there's just a bunch of them in bulk, and I just happened to buy one. I was like, I've seen a lot of shows where they use it. Maybe like, I don't know, or maybe I'll try using it. And I took it back home, and I remember I had like a Starbucks drink with me. I was like very nonchalant. I went in my room, turned on TV. I started like looking up information on how to use it. And so I turned off my TV and then sat aside my drink, and I was just by myself in my house. And I put my hands on it, on the, what is it, like a little triangle? There's like a little glass, right? It was like a little Hasbro almost Ouija board that they had. Mm-hmm. And I started using it, and I put my hand on it, and I was like, are there any spirits here? And it was just quiet, and, nothing happened. And I was just kind of like disappointed, and I put it aside. And then probably like a couple minutes later, just like in my peripheral, I kept on hearing it's almost like a breathing in my hallway, kind of like someone's like breathing, like someone's like outside my hall, like in my hallway in my house. And I turned the corner real fast, and there's no one there. And like I'm like, this is all in your head, man, you know? And I just, you know, I'm watching TV and I kept on hearing this breathing. I was like, no way. And it was like, this is really weird. And then, you know, I decided to call my friend over. She's like a really good friend of mine, like childhood friend. And she brings her friend over. I told her I had a Ouija board in my house. And I bought one. They're like, oh, cool. Let's use it. And then, they come over and we use it. I told her, like, I just heard some like breathing in the hallway. It's like really weird. She's like, shut up, you're not, you know. And like we start using it, right? And we ask it if there's any spirits around, and it's not really working. And like we thought it was moving, but it really wasn't. I think one of her friends was like moving it. And like, and then we're like, let's try it one more time, see if it'll, like, let's be serious about this. And we put our hands on it, and then all of a sudden when we put our hands on it, it was like all the sound like ceased, like from outside. There's like a playground, like a park nearby, and everything ceased. Like the wind stopped, the birds stopped chirping. It was really weird. I was like, did you hear that? It's like, there's like nothing, and like, and then after that, nothing really happened, but they ended up leaving. And like my mom saw it and she was just freaked out when she got home, and she's like, get that thing out of this house. Or it was kind of funny but kind of freaky, because my mom because like how parents are, like, she got home and she saw it on my table and she started backing away from it. And I was like, Mom, I'm like, what's wrong? She's like, get that out of here. I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, get that out of here. She like just started freaking out. And like, I never knew the severity of like what I did, after, maybe following months, years at my house, every once in a while, it just feels weird. Like there's someone always watching me,
Right.
But, and, I tried experimenting it with my friend one time. And, well, before that, I tried getting a video camera out to see if it would work, to see if, I could record it. And so I was in my room, I closed the door, and it was kind of like near night, like kind of like in the evening. And I turned, I had it out. I started recording myself. I'm like, my name's this. I'm about to use this Ouija board. And then in my peripheral, this shadow just zoomed across my room. And I was like, okay, game over, and turn off my camera. And then I was like, okay, that was kind of weird, And then, that happened. And then my friend came over and he used it, and, cause his grandma was a medium. So I was like, okay, cool. Maybe you have some type of, some traits your grandma has, and then we used it, and it just got weird. He just was like, he got really, like, he kind of like went into a black where he just, was like staring off, and he couldn't, like, he said he saw some red lighting or something really weird behind me. And yeah, we just stopped there. I opened up the windows and, opened the doors and like game over again. So it's right. Definitely not something, you want to use, but yeah, that picture that I showed you, that was probably like, I think it was last year when I saw it. So the picture I sent you.
Yeah, I know. I actually shared that picture with the people that were watching so they could see the face that you're about to talk about.
Okay. So what happened was like I think it was last year for New Year's, not this year, but the year before for New Year's, I was in my house. I was just going through pictures and stuff and on my phone, deleting old pictures, things I don't need. And I saw that picture and I just noticed something in it that I'd never noticed before. And it was that face kind of like right above my face. And it looked like just like a baby's face or something. And like, I freaked out because that's exactly where I was sitting on my couch in my living room. And I was like, okay, time to go. Because I have family members that live nearby. I'm like, it's time to go over there. And so, it was really weird. And I showed my aunt who took the picture, and she was like, she kind of looked at me weird, and she showed my other aunts, and they're like looking weird. They're like, she's like, I don't remember that being there before, you know, like neither have I. And that picture's probably like 5 years old, you know?
Wow.
And so I thought that was pretty nuts. You know?
Yeah, I mean, so people see the face though, right? I mean, like, it's not like people are like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So like, cause my brother, right, I showed like multiple friends of mine the picture, and like, you know, they're like, wow, that's crazy, that's really weird. And I'm like, yeah. It's like, it looks like a baby. I'm like, yeah, that's what it looks like, you know, a little kid. And so I showed my brother, who's an actual photographer, and he was just like, man, that's just like dust or something. I'm like, how is that dust, man? You know?
Yeah.
He's just like, it's just part of the, but he's almost kind of like, he's like very rational about things, you know, but I don't know if it's so much of that, because when we were younger, my mom would tell us stories that my brother had, like, you know, an imaginary friend, like kind of like a, you know, like a real friend. He like legitimately thought it was like imagine, you know, how kids, you know, have those imaginary friends, but you know, maybe that was like a spirit or something, you know, and he just doesn't believe in that type of stuff anymore. So like, yeah, that's maybe how I kind of think how he is now. My parents would tell me some really weird stuff. Like he would legitimately go when he was like 4 or 5, 6, would go with his imaginary friend and play games with him, like, you know, really weird stuff like that. And I never had anything like that, you know, but yeah, I think he's more of like a rational type of guy, you know, now.
Yeah, I mean, everybody reacts to this kind of stuff differently. And, yeah, you know, I don't know. When I'm looking at this picture and stuff, I see the face. It looks like there's 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, a hairline, 2 ears.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clearly a face.
Yeah. It's pretty nuts. You know, none of us noticed that at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else it could be other than a face. So yeah. I'm going to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually post this on the website when I post this show, so people can actually go to the website and check it out, and they can go check it out and stuff like that, because it's clearly a face. And what I'll do is I'm actually gonna I'll post the original picture with your faces blocked out. I'll put an emoji over your faces, and then I'll actually crop it out so they can actually zoom in and see the actual face itself.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely like not once have I hampered with it. It was just a picture that, you know, that my aunt took years ago, and none of us had noticed it. And I don't know if it's something that just appeared over the years or something, but it's definitely just very, very weird, you know?
Oh, big time. Big time. In fact, there's been pictures that I've seen, you know, you see pictures online and people say, oh, look, there's a ghost there. And it's like, I don't see anything, you know? This is, I mean, when you sent it to me, and I don't think I even totally read the email or something like that. I just saw there was a picture and I looked at it, and the first thing I saw was the face in the background. It just pops right out.
Yeah, it's creepy, right?
Absolutely.
But it's not too creepy. It looks, from what it looks like a child's face, you know. So I'm not too worried about it. And in my house, there's nothing really crazy, nothing like I don't get like bruises or anything, like anyone attacks us. I'm like a very like kind of like curious type of person. Like I'll be in my house every once in a while, and around that time when I first used it, I'd hear footsteps upstairs, and it was legitimate to where I thought because what had happened, I had an uncle come over with his girlfriend at the time, and they were getting ready to go to breakfast, and I remember them leaving, but I heard footsteps upstairs, and I was like, hey, Uncle, you still here, you know? And I kept on hearing footsteps, and yeah, I was like, ooh, it's weird, I'm gonna go. So like, it's, you know, it's nothing too crazy over there, but you know, just something I want to, you know, mention to you. Thought it was good documentation, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally get it. So you said in the email at one point you were having some very realistic nightmares about Sasquatch and a mermaid. Were they 2 separate occasions, or did these dreams kind of tie together? And what were they?
Okay, so so the first dream, right? So maybe a year maybe 6 months after that whole mermaid incident. It might have been a year after, but I was over in my barracks room one night sleeping, and I had this very realistic dream. Almost like it was very realistic, like very detailed. Like I was somewhere sunny, some naval base somewhere, and it looked like it possibly was me in the future. I was in like a nice uniform, like a senior officer, senior enlisted type of position walking, and I was going through this very top secret area, and these people saluted me and I saluted them, and I walked into these gates into this area, and this guy comes over to me, and he looks like some commando type of guy, and he was just like, "Hey man, we just caught one of them." And I was like, "Yo dude, what are you talking about?" And like he's like, "We were off the coast of Oman and we got into a firefight with one of them." And I was like, "What are you talking about, man?" And all of a sudden we approached this tunnel, right? And he's like, "Whatever you do, don't look in its eyes." And he walked down this tunnel, and I was like, what the heck is he talking about? And then I walked down this dark tunnel, right? And at the end, I could kind of make out what it is. And it says, I could hear like sort of laughter, and I could hear, from what I could see going down the tunnel was this gigantic tank. It was like a fish tank almost, and it was splashing around. And these guys looked like they had, from when I was walking down it in my dream, they had these type of poles, and they're like shocking it with like some type of pole, like a taser almost, and they're messing around with it. And I get to the end of the tunnel, and there's all these like doctors, scientists watching this thing, and these military people. And I get to the end of the tunnel, and this the water starts, mellowing out, and you just start kind of seeing in it. And I was like kind of looking at it, and as soon as the water, calmed itself down, I could see it, and it was a mermaid. Like it was legit, like I don't know what a realistic mermaid would look like not fiction, not something out of like a movie, but something like, have you seen Harry Potter? The Goblet of Fire, where there's like a mermaid scene, right? Where it's like at a certain part in a tournament where he has to go find, they have to go rescue Hermione, and there's like the mermaid scene. It was sort of like that, but more realistic, like more human, but more sinister. And I looked at it, and it was looking at me, and she told me, she's like, "I'm going to enjoy killing you one day." It was really weird. And I was like, I've never been so scared in my life. Like, she didn't say that. It wasn't using any vocal. Like, she was telling me telepathically. Like, it was really weird. And then the guy grabbed me by the shoulder, and he's like, "I told you not to look in its eyes." And I and then I looked back in its eyes, and all of a sudden I woke up, and she was like right above me. And then I was like, I did not go to sleep. I woke up, and I walked around base, and like, I was just like so shocked. It was so real. And it was one of the scariest, most realistic dreams I've ever had. So I don't know if that's something in the future or something like my inner conscious is telling me. And I've looked up research into mermaids, and folklore says that they have powers of telepathy, and like they're almost like in the witch type of folklore background. That's like the type of realm that they're in. And I've also researched it to where I found some information on sightings in Zimbabwe also. And so it's crazy. But yeah, that was one of my most realistic dreams.
Did that happen before or after your actual encounter with the possible mermaid?
It was after, for sure.
Okay. Do you think your experience had anything to do with this realistic dream?
Yeah, for sure. Like maybe my curiosity of it, because I've always, ever since I saw that, I just kind of maybe one day want to go down there and maybe go searching for it or something. Just grab like some of my good friends with me, and like later on in the future, and like maybe like go not hunt it, but just go find some answers,
Yeah.
But it was definitely realistic. Like it was almost like a glimpse into my future almost. So it was kind of scary. And I've told maybe a couple people about it. I told one of my friends about it, one of my really close friends. He's like, wow, that's a crazy dream. Like, and I was like, yeah, right. And then I told one of my friends about it, and she was like, have you ever read, what's that book? The Alchemist. Have you ever read that book?
No, I haven't.
Well, in The Alchemist, right? The kid in the movie, or not the kid in the book has like a dream, and it's more of like a realistic dream, like something that's like that soon to happen almost. And she told me that's like something maybe your future is like wanting you to do or to look into. And so I've always been kind of more curious, because I have my normal military lifestyle I have, and with my family and my girlfriend, but on the side, like I do a lot of research into this stuff. And like, I don't know, I think maybe one day I might just find some answers, or I think it's just all this type of stuff on, Sasquatch, mermaids, UFOs. It's soon to come out pretty soon, the truth about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you sound like you're an adventurous kind of guy. I mean, you're in the military, you have these experiences, you want to go look into it more and stuff. And that's just how I am too. In fact, I can't help myself but to get fascinated by, if there's a mystery, I'm fascinated by it, and I would love to just go and search for these things. And I have with the Bigfoot stuff. I obviously never come close to one. I did find a footprint. I found a footprint once, which was pretty cool. But
oh wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but I never really came close. But it's not even just the cryptids and the mysterious things like that, but it's also like, what's that island called in the North Atlantic Ocean? I think it's called Oak Island or something like that, where like these like these pirates, supposedly the rumor is that they buried treasure and they set up all these booby traps, and they're trying to find this treasure, and it's just like that kind of stuff fascinates me. And so I'm here in Pennsylvania, and I'm always looking for a good mystery in Pennsylvania that I can start, trying to really dive into and see if I can put puzzle pieces together. I really enjoy that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Like that's how I felt like all my life. Like I kind of feel like my aunts, my family kind of molded me with, like stories like like movies like Indiana Jones, and my aunts traveled a lot, and that's one of the reasons why I'm probably in the Navy. Is because like my curiosity, but a lot of these things have just all of a sudden have happened. And I also, so I say about a couple of years ago, I had that dream about the Sasquatch, and so I've never even seen one, or all I've seen is stuff like on TV and in books, like from Monster Quest, that old show, and from Sasquatch Chronicles. I watched that too. I watch your show and Sasquatch Chronicles pretty much every week. That's cool, man. That's really cool. Yeah. So, but I'm sorry. No, go ahead. What were you gonna say? No. I was gonna dive into the what is it? The dream I had about the Sasquatch. It was just like really random. Yeah, no, go for it. That's what I was gonna bring up to you, anyways. But yeah, it was kind of like the first dream I told you about the mermaid, but this time I was somewhere, I don't even know, like maybe somewhere in some foothills, maybe Idaho or Montana or something. I was with a bunch of people, and I ended up, we were doing something, and somewhere in the back of my mind was, we have to get back, like to base or to wherever we're at, because we were being chased down by these things. And it was very realistic, like, cause I'd be walking, right, and all of a sudden I see a Sasquatch, like, it was gigantic from afar, and I've never been so scared in my life. And like, we'd be walking, trying to find a different path, and we'd be almost being cornered by like a group of them. And what it kind of reminded me of was like brutes from the game Halo. You ever play that game? Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, it was almost something like that, like something just ginormous in size almost. And it was just crazy. And then it got night. It turned into night, and we were still being followed by them. And then I think we ran into them one last time, but it was very realistic. It was like a a realistic Sasquatch, like kind of like how I saw the mermaid, but this time it was, you know, it was very realistic. But yeah, it's crazy. Those are two dreams I've had that were just, but the first one was very detailed. This one was like kind of short and very random, you know. And I don't know if this is somewhat of like a glimpse in the future or someone's life or something, or it's just crazy, you know, and to where I want to share it with people, you know.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, I think sometimes dreams, I shouldn't even say sometimes, I think a lot of times, especially if you remember your dream, it probably holds weight to something. I don't know what, I'm not a dream interpreter. I don't go to somebody to interpret my dreams, but I do think that there's an importance with dreams. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe one day, you know, you never know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. I've done a lot of research into David Paulides and Missing 411. Have you ever ventured into that or read about it?
Yeah, I've definitely listened to interviews of his and things like that.
Yeah, and it kind of freaks me out because I've seen like a seminar he's had where he talks about the 3 types of people that go missing in his book, and they're usually hunters. You know, endurance athletes, and then it's like doctors and scientists. And like, I'm kind of like an endurance athlete myself. I do a lot of triathlons, marathons, and, you know, it kind of like freaks me out, kind of where it's like, I kind of don't want to go by myself in any national parks by myself, because I feel like I'll end up disappearing or something, you know. But like, you know, it's just crazy, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean, man. That's a real mystery that you know, I don't know. I mean, David took it pretty far, but I don't know how much further you can go with it as far as trying to find out answers, because clearly there's obstacles to overcome, like, you know, the Freedom of Information Act, you know, and things like that. Like, you think that should be easy, but he had to pull teeth to get any information, and so you know, I'm not sure, but it's definitely a fascinating line of thinking, and I think there's merit to it, because there are these real missing people that keep coming up, and it's not stopping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I was really fascinated and kind of creeped out, and I was looking into the Lisa Lam case. Did you ever hear about that? She was a Canadian girl that went missing in Los Angeles. Okay. And so
I've never heard of it.
So it's really interesting because he talks about it too, because a lot of his you know, people that go missing, he doesn't say it is, because he's an investigator, right? He doesn't say it's a lot of these people were, you know, in the national parks, that's the Sasquatch, but it's, you know, it probably is. But through all of his, you know, his investigations, the really weird one was Elisa Land, or I think her name's Elisa Land, but she was in Los Angeles, right? And because I'm here, and when I was in downtown, it kind of reminded me of it, and I was kind of keeping a close eye because it was at the Cecil Hotel. And so she was this Canadian girl, and she was with her friends, and she happened to stay at this hotel that, like, Richard Ramirez, the serial killer, like, died at, apparently, years back, and all sorts of weird paranormal stuff has happened there. And they have video of her last sighting, and she was in this elevator, and she was just kind of looking dazed and confused, like, you know. And they ended up finding she was bipolar, and they think that she might have, like, not taken her medication, but she was almost like, you know, looking around weird. She walked into an elevator where the camera was at, and she was kind of like looking around the elevator, doing some weird stuff, like there was, like, she was possessed almost, or if there's someone in the hallway. And then she just, like, all of a sudden just walks down this hallway, and then she's just gone. People don't see her after that. And so in the story, what happened, so, and I remember, I think I was on leave when I heard the story when it happened, that she went missing. And I think it was for about 2 weeks she was missing. And then all of a sudden, the guests at the hotel, the water in the sinks and their bathrooms were turning black. And they're like, what the heck? And the maintenance guy went and checked the water tank on the, you know, the top the roof of the building, and they found her body in it. But what was really strange was that there's no way her body could fit in that tiny little water tank, you know. And David Paulides, just process of elimination, just, was trying to show, there's no way she went missing for that long, and she was just up there the entire time. And, me as an engineer, I've worked with water treatment. There's no way she was in there for that long. She must have somehow gotten into it. And I guess the little manhole, or there's no way for her to fit in it. She's all of a sudden just popped up in it, And a lot of David Paulides, people that he's investigated, they're found, without any type of symptoms of being restrained or any type of violent type of behavior. And, she was just I think she was just naked in the tank or something. But that's a lot of, type of symptoms that, the people that have passed away, who did Paulides investigations.
Yeah, it's definitely fascinating. And I don't say fascinating where lightheartedly. It's a fascinating, intriguing situation where these are very odd situations that people will go missing and things like that.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this up, I would like for you to talk about this the death of your cousin. Who are you seeing signs that she's okay? What happened here?
Okay, so I actually had to talk to one of my aunts just to see if it was okay to talk about. But it's just really weird. Yeah, because my cousin, she's only 12 years old when she just passed away a couple of years ago, and it's crazy. She's just a nice little girl, and nothing, she was just a very good girl, very good student, and as soon as she passed away, even at her funeral, because it was in Texas where it was at, and it was kind of a sunny day, and all of a sudden, as soon as we started moving her body to the burial site, it started raining on us, like really hard, just in our spot at the funeral area, and it was just nuts. And she just shows us a lot of signs, a lot of her family members. And whenever, I think it was a couple days after, me and my uncle went to go to her gravesite, where it was at. And we set some flowers down, for her. And this tiny little yellow butterfly came by and landed right on the flowers. And it would kind of kind of moved its wings at us, kind of a wink or a smile or something. And so we kind of just looked at each other and it was she's in a better place almost. And then it just took off kind of very, very slowly, just flew away. But in Aztec culture, because I'm Mexican, Aztec culture, butterflies are kind of a good sign of, family members when they pass away, that they're, they're nearby and that they're okay, And and then as soon as I left, because I was at that time moving from Florida to Texas, I just happened, my cousin passed away at that time. So I had my U-Haul and everything with me. And as I was, driving back to California, this huge swarm of butterflies were migrating through Texas, and my whole, because I was kind of sad and, pretty down about my cousin passing away. And I was kind of worried about, driving with all my stuff to California, and, all these butterflies were just flying everywhere on the freeway back home. And my whole windshield was covered with tiny little baby butterflies. And so I thought that was just an amazing, type of thing. I told my mom and my family about it, and it just kind of gives me hope for, death and everything. Because I know you had that guy that was on your show. He was the John of God of Hawaii.
Yeah.
And he kind of spoke about, how people that experience death, that they're more grateful for life, and they're usually like happier people. They're, they take life, for, more serious. It kind of made me, this whole experience kind of, very grateful, and made me pursue things that maybe I thought were impossible before. And so, but I still continue seeing signs of her with these butterflies. Like it's like I'll be on a range, like, shooting rifle and pistol, and a little butterfly will come up whenever I think I'm like doing bad at shooting, and it'll come up right on my range, like kind of like flying by, like in front of like the muzzle of a gun, and it's just kind of like, I feel like that's just her, and I'll be, like, I was out of school at that time, around the time when she passed away, and the butterfly was kind of like flying around me and this instructor and all these people, and no one kind of noticed it except me. They're just flying around us and kind of flying around me for at least a couple minutes, and then it just took off, But yeah, it's just nuts,
Yeah, I find that it's really cool that there's things that you go through hard times in life, and people find comfort in things that in unexpected places, like you're just sharing now and stuff. And I think that that's really cool. And you sent me off on a different line of thinking when you mentioned about you being Mexican and how these are things that are kind of commonly thought on in that culture. And if you don't mind, I want to ask you a question. You may never have heard of this before, but I wanted to ask you because this is the first time I've ever thought about it since it happened. When I was younger, I was in my early 20s. I used to be a mechanic. I used to work on cars, and I was in a garage where one of the guys was Mexican, and I think we might have been talking about Bigfoot or something like that. We got on these topics, and he said to me that in Mexico, a lot of people believe that when a girl turns 16 years old, that a leprechaun comes to her at night and has sex with her. And he really, really believed this. Is that something you've ever heard of before?
No, I've never heard of that. But like, some Aztec and Mayan cultures, it wouldn't surprise me by like some of the things that, because I've never heard about the butterfly type of thing until my cousin passed away. And so, my family would share stuff about it. And like, it's a very real thing. Like my cousin, almost not always with butterflies, but just with signs. Like, I think even like in her back home where they're at, like she'll shut off. Like this just happened to come up to my head. But my aunt, I guess, because my cousin really loved like pastries and cakes and stuff. From when I just saw my aunt a week ago, she told me that they smell like cake being baked and cookies being baked, but there's nothing being like cooked in their kitchen at all. And I guess that's something that's been happening a lot. And so, but I don't know if it's just, there's a lot of stuff with Aztec culture that will, surprise you, like that many people, I've never heard of that before, but that could be something, like almost like like an incubus or succubus type of thing. Right. I don't know. I've never heard of that, but I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Cause I find it very interesting. So, but I'll tell you what, Rob, man, I really appreciate you being on here and sharing these experiences. Definitely the mermaid stuff, dude. That is fascinating. So I thank you for coming on, man.
No, I really appreciate you having me on and giving me the opportunity to talk and, maybe show some light to some people, maybe some other military folks that have seen stuff. And, yeah, no problem. And people that maybe have, kind of lost hope with their family that have passed away, and, just to keep on, being optimistic and just know that they're okay. Cause my cousin, her passing away was just, it hit my family pretty hard, so where they're still being, pretty hurt by that, but we continue seeing signs of her, and it's warm. It's comforting for sure. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. I mean, it's one of those things, man, where if I have somebody that's in the military and they want to talk about some things that they've experienced while they're in the military, that's an open door to anybody who's listening. I love that stuff. So yeah, awesome stuff, man. I really appreciate it. And keep in touch. If you have anything else you'd like to share, shoot me an email.
Okay, I definitely will. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching the Confessionals on YouTube. If you like what you heard, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, and hit the like button. That would be a great help to me. And if you want more of the Confessionals on a weekly basis, every Thursday I come out with a special show just for members on my website. So if you want to check that out, go to theconfessionalspodcast.com, hit the join button, and become a member today. And every Thursday, you'll get a new show, and you can binge on previous shows, which there's almost 100 of them. So if you love the show, go ahead and check it out. But thank you very much for being here on YouTube and checking out the channel.